about what Kevin was saying, he's referring to something that's been in China. They have something called leftover women. Okay,
yeah, that's exactly what he's talking about.
Let me give it to you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's an article that came out about 7 years ago, and China is going bankrupt because they have so many, or actually, South Korea, they have so many women who are unmarried, and they're not contributing to the tax base because women don't make enough money to support themselves in the society. Same thing here in the United States. Men make more money. We contribute more to the tax base. It is the men's taxed money that pays for the roads, that pays for the ambulance, or the utilities that we use. It's men. So when a woman has a job, she's not making enough or not paying enough back in the system to take care of her end of the social financial contract that you have with the country.
Let's talk about what is a leftover woman. We had Dennis Sperling articulate his version of what it is. I know Shan shook his head. He was one of the first ones on the panel. Very familiar. And somebody else on the panel said that Shan may have had a few of these in his time. So, Mr. Shannon Rawls, you are up to the stage right now, sir. What do you got? What are your thoughts about what is a leftover woman and what Dennis Sperling was saying?
Well, it's a term. It's a Chinese. So Xingnu, SHENGNU. That's the term. Xingnu. Xingnu. It was an article, and Brother Dennis is referring to an article that came out talking about women who were not married. So in the Western world, right, we talk about hitting the wall and all that. We don't have a real specific term other than spinsters, which is in America. So a woman who's a spinster is typically a woman who was never married, never had children, and has gone beyond the point where a man would typically want her for her beauty, right? And I think is it 2040? We're going to have an influx of spinsters based on the behavior of women on the West Coast. They think that it's cute today, right? Because, we never look forward. We never look in the future for anything. So a lot of women, this whole boss bitch, I'm independent. I don't need no, and, get on my level type shit. And hypergamy is built in. And we understand hypergamy, but the reality is a lot of women are not just looking for men that are on their level. They're looking for men far above their level. Right. That's what made Kevin so famous with that one Your Average at Best video. So we're going to have an influx of spinsters in America, but currently China and the Eastern world is dealing with a lot of Xingnu women. And the Xingnu women is 27 years old in China. Over here, we talk about 35, we talk about 40. In China, if you are a 27-year-old woman and you're not married, it is almost impossible to find a husband because the men over in China, old and young, are looking at the younger women. So that's what they mean by leftover. It's not a dig per se. It's not an insult, as you put it. It simply means that if relationships is the purpose of human mating, one of the main reasons that we're on this planet is to procreate and be fruitful and multiply, and you get to the point where a man doesn't want you, you're Xingnu.
Damn.
Yo, I'm a little heartbroken by this situation because according to what Dennis Sperling said and what Shane just said, over here in America, they want leftover women to be where they are because according to what he said, and let me know if I'm wrong, is a certain group or demographic or amount of women that are a part of the society over there that isn't making enough money to hold up, in order for them to be taxed, right? So because of that, they need the women to be married. But over here, the government promotes single motherhood and paying women money to not have a man, to have fatherless babies. So they are producing leftover women over here, which means, and let me know if I'm wrong, It's due to the fact that black men are not making enough money on their own, where it makes more sense to boost up the black women. So you got black men making half the money and then black women making half of the money. And now everybody is taxed versus us being married. So is that true that according to everything I just heard, leftover women over here is actually pushed for it to actually be a thing?
Yes, because economically, it makes more sense for the government to have more single people because they spend more. You have separate households, right? So you have separate mortgages, separate everything, utilities. So the money goes up. I mean, Thomas Sowell talks about this in his book called, I think it's Economics 101. So yes, it makes more sense over here because the government can make more money, because even if they give the single mother money, right, it's taxpayer dollars, right? And so you can raise, so inflation goes up as well.
When it gets smaller.
Go ahead.
And I spoke about this on the show. And what people don't understand is that this puts in an innate competition already built in between men and women. Right? We look at this opposition because no matter what, until we get to the person, hopefully, right, that we could build a life with, we looking at each other like I gotta compete with you for this dollar and these resources. So we're natural adversaries at this point.
That goes all the way back in the day when I say it all the time, when the little girl falls on the floor and they coddle her, the whole room stops. The little boy falls, they tell him to man up. We've been at war with our girls since day one. Like subconsciously, we've been at war, bro. Like now it's the money factor. Like we got more divorces in households because of money than anything else.
And now mothers are telling their daughters to get up, suck it up, and don't cry. I actually was around a family and the mom was there, and grown daughters are at the table, and I'm like, yo, so did you teach, it was like 3 women. I'm like, did you teach them all this tough people shit? And she was like, yeah, I didn't know what else to do. So yeah, I taught them not to cry. I taught them to be tough. I taught them to be independent because I had to be this and that. And to me, it's the only way you survive. And I'm like, so all of this, what we're talking about now, is literally opening my eyes to what the hell is actually happening. They're trying to keep all of us single in order for them to be able to tax all of us in a more efficient manner versus us being married and the woman being home or something like that. Apparently that doesn't work for our society over there. Over here, I guess mainly for black people. So they keep doing shit to keep us separated. So she'll have a job and he'll have a job. And then you got men who make some more money. Because the average woman makes about $51,000 a year. And I think the average man makes $47,000 a year. So it's like, we make more money than y'all. So it just keeps us competing with each other instead of marrying each other. This shit is crazy.
Yeah, and actually one of the things that I see too, fellas, and Lego, you just brought it up. I was going to bring up the same thing. Real talk. You see that in every industry. Every industry now has a woman competing against a man. And right now, there's a bank that I consult for, and it's in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I can tell you right now that the main leadership in a certain department is all women. All women. There are no men, like no men at all. And it's set up that way. You can see that it's set up that way. As a matter of fact, every time a woman wins an award, small awards, they pumping out like corporate wide. But if a man does something, it's nothing. And like you said, it's more about the taxation and more money being pumped into the system instead of having relationships. Whereas we can appropriate. Well, you know what you said. That word ain't coming out right. But so that we can multiply. and do this thing the right way. And it's wild, man. It's sad. And I've had a lot of women let go, whereas their mothers told them, you don't need a man. You need to go get a job so that you don't have to depend on a man. I hear that so often these days. So you on point with that, bro.
And I don't think, Mr. Lego, I don't think women have surpassed men in income just yet. They're catching up though. They're moving fast. Men within their specific demographic. Yeah, men still make more than women, but the women they're moving fast. But the thing is though, black men do make enough. You know, most black men are middle class or high. We make enough. The problem is what they're selling is what we make ain't enough. We make enough to have a family, to get an apartment, to buy a decent car, to go to work, to have food on the table, to watch Netflix, to have heat and hot water and running, you know, and in a bed, in a separate room for the children. We make enough money by and large. But they're saying there's what they're selling to us in media and television and music videos and on and radio and on every billboard is, oh, that's not enough. You need a Bentley. You can't have a Benz. You don't need a BM. You don't need a Honda Accord. That's not good enough for you. And don't you get no man that drives a Nissan. No, you need a man that has a 750i. He has to have a Lamborghini. And if you don't have a man that has a Lamborghini, ladies, then I don't know what's wrong with you. And that's what they're selling it. And so
drinking it up too, King. They are drinking that up like it's water.
And Shannon, you hit it right on the nose with that making enough. You know, last year, black people in general spent $1.8 trillion.
And that's the thing, Rashawn. It's the spending and not the making that they're screwing us up at.
100% is what we spending on. You 100% right. We spend it with everyone else except for ourselves. And I'm waiting for these numbers to come back because I was looking at to see how much of that 1.8 trillion went to black companies like our own. We talk about black people in general. So I'm waiting for those numbers to come back on that one. But however, man, that would make us the 90. If we spent it with ourselves, that would make us 95. We would be 95% out of all of the countries. 100% of the countries around the world would be more richer than 95% of the countries around the world. It's 1.8 trillion. But the thing is, as everyone said, they got this competition thing going back and forth, having you competing, you know, with your woman and having her competing with you. So it's ego playing that game. And they just using all of our weaknesses, divide and conquer. That's really the tactic right there. Divide and conquer.
It's not even ego, Rashawn. It triggers the survival mechanisms.
That's true. Yes, sir.
And
you're right.
And this is what I say again. I should smack all of y'all because I done said this on my show. I don't know how many times, bro. This is facts. JR is here. He'll tell y'all. I done said this I don't know how many times, right? This is the whole, and you got to applaud the people who put the system in because it is proof of concept. It runs itself. The ant farm we need no stimuli. We do it to each other automatically. And everybody's too afraid to just say, you know what, we're not going to do that no more.
Well, you know why they're afraid though? Because every time somebody says something and stands up and has their chest out and say, hey, this is the way to do it. Oh, it's all types of vitriol coming at them. It's all types of things being said about them. Character assassination, different things of that nature to take them down so that it tries to discredit the words that they say. They may be telling you the right thing to do, but then many times what happens is they bring out something to try to discredit that person and bring them down. And oftentimes they may even bring out the fact, just like our brother said earlier, about how much money they make. Not so much what they do with the money they make. One of the things my father always said was this, y'all. It's not how much you make, it's what you do with what you make. And that's the thing that is not perpetuated in our society today. Just like this platform that we're on right now. If you go off of this and hit YouTube, and I bet you the next 5 videos you tap, It's gonna hit on all these things that we talked about. Not the good stuff about men doing what they're supposed to do with their bread, but it's about that other stuff. The cars, the money. Look, it's the holiday season. How much bread you gonna spend on your woman? And how much bread she gonna spend on you? Or how much bread you gonna spend on yourself?
Is it true that women spend more money per year than men?
Yes.
Yes, because all advertisement is predicated on to
Towards
them.
women.
I mean, if
To
you
women.
go to the mall, you see how many stores are for
Women, too. They cater to women and children.
Just
Women
look at
and children
your
is everything.
Amazon. I think that's the only reference you need. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Say that again, Ricky.
look at your girl in Amazon.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yo, Ricky, I was about to say the same thing. Every time I turn around, they're at my door. Every time I turn around, they are at my door. Real rap.
Hey, go ahead, Rio. I'll tap into this.
I have more of a question than anything. One of the things that came to mind for me was intermarriage. So my question is, do we as Black men choose to predominantly choose to date and marry Black women because of our dedication to marrying inside of our race and our dedication to our Black women? Or are we less desired by women of other races? Because either way, I mean, it doesn't matter what color a person is. If a Black man has a child by a woman, he's gonna have a Black child, right? So that's not the issue, right? At this stage in the game, what is the reason why we are so dedicated? And is it that we're dedicated, or is it that other races aren't looking at us unless we're rich?
I think it's ass and hips. Like Black women are the only humans on the planet that have the ass and hips. And I think we've gotten so used to it because, you know, it's in front of us all the time on TV, the rap videos. You know, white women, like when I was younger, white women was always like Barbara Streisand or whatever. They were just always skinny. They just, you know, it wasn't even about titties. It was just, she's a woman with long hair. You know, the Bo Derricks, they'll just be like waving their hair around, and, you know, it was just a bunch of hair shit. You know what I mean? But when it came to women being portrayed, it was about their hips and their asses. And we just grew up like loving and wanting and yearning for a woman with a fat ass. But the rest of the world don't care about fat asses because they ain't stupid like us. They want a woman. They want a family. We just worrying about some fat ass. So I think that's the reason why we feel so dedicated to Black women, because that's somewhat the only place we're going to get those things. And I think we're just, I don't know the word for it. We're just conditioned to look for a woman that has a nice shape instead of a nice brain or a set of some common sense. She could be dumb as shit, but if she's fine, we're gonna deal with her.
How do you get to know her brain before her body, though? You gotta be attracted by what you see first.
Not only that. I mean, when we fast forward to now, Mr. Let Go, I think we're noticing that shape doesn't always come with Blackness anymore. Let's just be honest. I mean,
I'm just saying overall, though. I'm just saying overall throughout the years.
I think it's just people are naturally attracted to their own.
I would just, you just said it. You just said it. I didn't even think that Mr. Lego was going to go that route. I thought and I think it's in one of the books that you got, Mr. Lego. What people normally date or try to be with natural, it's like a natural instinct with their own, right? You don't really see lions trying to mate with tigers, right? You just don't see that happening. You see our Arabs really want to mate with an Arab, a Indian want to mate with another Indian, right? They have pride in who they are, so they want to naturally be with their own. And so it's a natural instinct, and there's nothing wrong with us wanting to be with our own. But I agree with you. I think that we need to have discernment of choosing the right one for us.
But just keep this in mind. We're all lions, white, black, Arab. We're all the same species. You feel me? So even though I understand what you're saying, but we're still within our own species. So it's like a lion that is lighter versus a lion that's darker, or a lion that has this type of mane. You know what I'm saying? So we're dating within our species.
No, but the cat species is a cat species. Rather, it's a tiger or a lion, but you don't see a tiger trying to chase after and mate with the lion. Those are same species. It's like birds. It's a bird species.
Okay.
You see a woodpecker trying to mate with a blue jay.
Okay.
You know
Okay. That makes sense. Okay. Gotcha. That makes sense.
So in 2000, I think it was around 2002, 2003, there was a psychoanalysis done as to why we date who we date, and why we marry who we marry, why we like who we like black men. I think the percentage is around 83% date our own women, right? We stick to our women more than anybody else, despite the what people say. But the psychoanalysis that came out was we typically date our parents. Women, generally speaking, find somebody who resembles, not only just looks like, but talks like and thinks like her father, if she had one. And men typically look for somebody that's just like their mom. It's one of the reasons, and Mr. Lego, you talk about it all the time, especially when we talk about these young men that grew up fatherless and now they're becoming how they are because they're the 50-50 and all that, because they've seen their mom being a superwoman. Men are out looking for a replacement of their mother to be their lover and have somebody at home with them to fall in love with, because they fell in love with their mom, right? So, and I forget, it was I don't know where the study was done, but I know it was around 2003 or so, that when they did the psychoanalysis, that human beings, and the reason why we intermarry, why we intermarry within our own race, is typically because the woman that you fall in love with resembles all the wonderful things that you loved about your mother. And then that's why you find that. And then when it comes to looks, that's part of it as well. So let's not remove that portion of the reason why the human psyche typically falls for a archetype of person that they fall in love with.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because I mean, I even see it, within myself, and I think it's probably the same across the board. Black has always been a requirement. I didn't necessarily know why that is. Almost, I think I was just raised, conditioned to think that way. Had I not been, I don't know if I would have had that bias, so to speak.
Well, I'm glad my bad, I didn't cut you off, King.
No, go ahead.
No, I married a Dominican woman. You know what I'm saying? And that my choice growing up and was based upon my mother, my aunts, and my grandmothers. There was no way in the world. I love all of them to death, but there was no way I could be with anyone, any prototype at all, because I just couldn't do it. The attitudes, the headaches, the annoyance, I just couldn't deal with it. So me personally, I had a Jones for Dominican women. So my whole entire life, I've dated black girls, definitely dated a whole bunch of them. But when it came down to what I chose, what I wanted to go forth with, nah, it was hands down. There was no question for me.
Yeah, I'm addicted to black women. The shit is annoying as hell. So I feel you on that. Like, golly.
Nah, don't get me shot. Don't get me shot.
I can't do nothing, but I love them. But goddamn, bro. Golly,
then we got traumatic issues. The black community, the ADOS, or however you want to call it, the FBA. Black people in America, we got our traumas, and we got our issues with everything. And when we see shit, like, that's one of the reasons why I never really drank. People always say, like, I grew up in, when I grew up in my neighborhood out here in LA in the 80s, all my homies was drinking 40 ounces, what I'm saying, Old English 800, drinking Cisco's. And I didn't drink because I saw the fuck ups that they were doing. I said, well, if I start drinking, I might like it, then I'll fuck up like them. So I avoided it because I saw the pitfalls that they were doing. They start smoking weed. So I was like, well, damn, these niggas is dumb. So I said, well, I don't want to smoke weed because they was telling us that this is your brain on drugs. We had the whole frying eggs and shit. I grew up around that. So I was like, I don't want my fucking brains to fry. So I used some deductive analysis. So I ain't doing that shit. Same thing with people with traumatic experiences. If you watch your mom being something that you don't like, if you watch your father being somebody you don't like. You can run from that too. So we have traumatic experiences, but by and large, that's what we go for because most of us love our parents and shit.
So,
Yeah,
so we answered the question, what is a leftover woman?
yeah, that's where I was gonna go.
Did we answer that question? So basically a woman that has reached a certain level where nobody wants her.
Well, no, I think in America, wouldn't it be a different definition here? According to everything that we just said, women are valued to be like leftover women are valued here because they are more taxable as themselves. You know, this independent woman bullshit, you know, it's been programmed into women. So it seems like they want the women to be leftover. So I don't think they're considered leftover over here. They're considered like government assets. They're either living off the government or working for the government. Because a woman has a fatherless baby. She puts her man on child support and she now works for the government. If that makes sense.
Mr. Lego, that's she's valuable to the government. Yes. In the sexual marketplace, no. But to the government, she's a gold mine. She's a cash cow.
But isn't the government calling them leftover women over in Korea?
Correct.
The government calls them leftover women because they're not taxable. They're not valuable to the government in some type of roundabout way. Black women are valuable to the government here. Therefore, I don't think we can look at women here as leftover women. Because
I'm convoluting the two different. I'm mixing them up. I'm mixing them up.
It's not about us. It's about what the government deems these women as.
Exactly. Look at it from a payroll perspective. Over there, they're looking at it as an expense. Here, they're looking at it as an asset.
Got it. I see. I mixed it up. My bad.
Yeah. And again, like we said earlier, gentlemen, the wild thing about it is this. And my brother Ricky, you said you hit it on the point, and we kind of scaved over it and kept going. The system, right? The system needs everybody to be earners in some sort of way. So it's not just a couple in a household, right? Whereas you may not make as much, like you may make $80,000, but you budget right, you do what you need to do, and you're with your woman and y'all making this thing work. There are people out there that's doing that. You know what I'm saying? Go on a trip every now and then, whatever, but they would rather have it where there are two people separate, right? That may be making $60,000, which now let go to go right back into what you're saying. Now it pours that much more money into the system. Not only the system as far as the government, but also into corporate America, into buying goods, into all these companies that are out here. So like, that's a great point. We have to keep it on the financial side, even though with us as Black men and Black women, it is very hard to separate, you know what I'm saying, the sexual side and the relational side away from the financial piece.
Because going back to what
when you're married,
go ahead.
You pay less in taxes when you're married. You pay more taxes when you're single.
Your living expenses,
most definitely.
You only have to pay for one domicile, bills at one place.
There you go.
Place. You know what I'm saying? Again, that's why people don't understand that wealth was based in marriage. Right? Wealth was based from marriage.
Always.
That's why everybody.
That's powerful.
It's crazy how people talk about, want to take it back to the olden days in the feudal systems where families joined to combine wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? To get to a larger step. But again, like I said, you know, y'all want y'all freedom, you know, and y'all being oppressed, and y'all don't want submission and all that shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's whatever.
So going back to what Shan said, and I see you, Ken. I just want to say this. Shan said the perception of we make enough to take care of our families has changed. So either women or just TV makes us feel like we're not making enough. So it pushes us to want to go out and make more instead of going and find a woman and just make enough work for her. Because one, society has taught the woman to say, well, this isn't enough, so I don't want to be with you. Like with the Kevin Samuel stuff. you don't make enough for me to want to actually be with you. So the woman don't want to be with a man because in her mind, the perception of enough isn't enough. So she has to go out and make a certain amount of money. The man has to go out and make a certain amount of money to get the woman. And it's like he's chasing either the woman or the money because the perception of enough isn't enough. But overall, if we all would have stopped chasing the bag, per se, you know, there's nothing wrong with chasing the bag and actually settle down and get married. Like Ricky said, one household will literally cause less money to go into the system from a taxation standpoint.